What's up, everyone? Welcome to TMH Sportscast, the Miami Hurricane University of Miami student-run newspapers brand new sports podcast. My name is Zach Cohen. I'm joined by Liam Hickey. We're excited to bring you our first episode co-hosting, and we're gonna have a nice little weekly run for you during the entire football season. We're gonna start with takeaways from the game before, and then we're gonna hopefully get an interview with somebody from the opposing team's student-run newspaper as well. And then we'll talk about the game that's going to happen the upcoming in the upcoming few days and during the next week. Liam, happy to have you along. Happy for this journey. Anything you want to add before we really get cooking?
I'm just really happy to get started here, Zach. I'm thrilled to be here and thrilled to be representing the Miami Hurricane newspaper. And we got a packed agenda for today's episode. Let's go over some Bethune-Cookman takeaways over last Saturday. And then, like you mentioned, we'll preview the long-awaited USF game where it's now going to be a top 25 matchup for the Hurricanes. So a lot of intriguing storylines and excitement headed into that one. So I think we should just get started right away. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, let's talk about the offense a little bit from what we saw from that game. I mean, Carson Beck, 22 out of 24 from the field, 267 yards, 200 to two touchdowns, and a 95.1 QBR. I mean, what do you see from Carson Beck in his performance?
I thought this guy was nearly perfect, and he really commanded the starting unit, which went 5 for 5. They scored a touchdown on every single drive they played to open up this game. And not only was this a great Carson Beck performance, this was a historic Carson Beck performance. He broke the University of Miami record for most consecutive completions, completing his first 15 on the night, which actually broke 1986 Heisman winner Vinny Testaverde's mark of 14 in a row when he played against Oklahoma so long ago.
I mean, yeah, you said it best, Liam. And I think storyline before the season is how is this guy going to stack up against Cam Ward, who had a Heisman finalist season. Him and Cam Ward are two different people, two different styles of ball, and I think Miami fans are gonna have to get used to that. But he's shown why these fans and why this team should believe in him. Throughout the season, he's 77.8% on completions for 472 yards. Cam Ward 500 yards in his first game, but two quarterbacks, two different styles of offenses, and he has great pieces around him, like uh, C.J. Daniels and Malachi Tony.
Yeah, and I think he's honestly even surpassed expectations from the average Miami fan going into the season. He was touted by many as more of a game manager compared to Cam Ward, who would take over games many times than not. But he's actually even stepped up into Heisman conversations this early. I believe he's tied for the third best odds or something around those lines. So it just shows of the offense that he's been able to command under this Cristobal coach unit that's been really impressive so far. And speaking more on his historic game on Saturday night, there's actually a cool story behind this performance. His former offensive coordinator at Georgia, Mike Bobo, who actually once completed 19 straight passes when he was the former signal caller for the Bulldogs, he actually jokingly texted Beck back after the Notre Dame game when he completed 12 straight, and he said that he was never going to catch him. And so obviously, he came pretty close with 15, didn't get to that 19 mark. But I think if we want Beck to win the Heisman this year, I think we should get Bobo to trash talk him every week. Send him some dirt or something to get him motivated and riled up because it seems to be working. It kind of reminds me of that Riley Leonard situation from last year when we found out that his mom would text him, "You suck," before every game to get him going.
Yeah, it's a great story there, Liam. And we've seen, Shannon Dawson really elevate this offense. I know we're gonna talk about Cam Ward a little bit, but he's really doing a great job with Beck here, and with this is a new receiving room too. What have you seen from Shannon Dawson's play calling that's worked well, or maybe some things you want to see him, you know, uh, get a little better, and as we approach this game against USF, then few tough games down the stretch.
Well, Dawson's really been doing well, not just with the QBs, where he's been able to shore up those glaring issues with Beck, who had problems with interceptions last year. And then prior for Miami, it was Ward with a fumbling problem. Both of those issues now seem to have gone away with Beck yet having to throw an interception or a turnover so far in these 2 weeks. And then talking more on the receivers, it looked really promising, especially because Chris Ball was able to just show the amount of depth that this team truly had There were 14 different pass catchers in this game, which was actually more than the total amount of yards Cam Ransom had on the night, who was the secondary quarterback for Bethune-Cookman and played over a quarter of football. He actually only had 13 yards in the night. So the fact that Dawson and Cristobal are getting this many amount of receivers involved, it's just great for the overall culture of the team, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Miami took care of business. They were supposed to win that game. Obviously, they won the game 45-3. And kind of talking about Bethune-Cookman's quarterbacks, it was a weird situation there. It kind of felt like Timmy McClain and Cam Ransom were, exchanging drives, coming in and out of the game. They're doing some stuff to really try to get that offense going, and the offense didn't really go anywhere. I know Cam Ransom had that one run, but that's really all they had going for Bethune.
Yeah, and they did have that drive that looked promising late in the fourth quarter that Bryce Fitzgerald was able to pick off. But like you said, this was the quintessential trap game. Miami should have won this, but I think it was reassuring for Canes fans to see in which the way that they won in such a dominant fashion and letting the youngins really just steer the ship because Miami set it on cruise control that early. Like I said, going 5 for 5 on touchdowns in their first drives, which is awesome to see. And then you just had young guys like Nykar, Dalen Upshaw, and even Luca Gilbert. They were able to bask in a little of that limelight for the first time because of how well Miami did in the margin that they were able to set so early. It allowed for those guys to come in and really get some good minutes. The tight ends, they saw more of an elevated role with Lofton this time getting more involved than he did against Notre Dame. He had 3 catches on the night, and even Brock Schott, who was a popular name in the summer after he broke the all-time Miami squat record for tight ends, hoisting 560 pounds, which is just insane. So he's definitely also there, another prospect for the future. Two more guys, Ray Joseph and Tony Johnson. They also got more active in that game after playing second fiddle to Malachi Tony in the slot against Notre Dame. So just across the board, from those receivers that are receiving less minutes, it was great to see them get more involved.
Yeah, I mean, I want to go back to talking about the tight ends for a minute. The first game, Elijah Lofton had one target, and now you get him more involved. That's really crucial for the coming games. If Carson Beck could really build a connection with Elijah Lofton, because he's an elite receiver, he's a really big body, and he could truck some guys, and he has some speed as well, and he can block. So that'll be something I want to look out for as during the next few games, especially against USF. If Carson Beck could get Elijah Lofton the ball, and I think good things will happen. But I also want to shift our attention to seeing Emory Williams. You know what happened last time we saw Emory Williams? We saw him in the Pop-Tart Bowl against Iowa back in December 2024, and we know that performance wasn't great as well. Williams statistically tonight or on Saturday went 8 for 12 with 77 yards. Didn't have a bad performance. I didn't really see any great flashes of potential per se. I would have liked to see Luke Nickel maybe in those last two drives, but I also understand why Shannon Dawson and Coach Mario Cristobal didn't decide to play Nickel in that game.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for Emory Williams to win back the favor of the fans after his performance in that Pop Tarts Bowl game last season. So he's got kind of an uphill battle there. Like you said, I also would like to see Luke Nickel or even Judd Anderson get more involved because those are the kind of players that are going to be asking for more snaps or else they're going to transfer out of the program. So you want to keep them in the game in terms of a roster retainment perspective if you're Coach Cristobal. But once again, it was important for Emory Williams to get those snaps and get those extra touches because you never know when he's going to be needed to call upon if Carson Beck goes down with an injury at some point, God forbid. Um, we need to see Emory Williams getting more active for sure. And he played more of a game manager role. It was really the running backs like Gerard Pringle that stole the show later on. And that's really all that you can ask for is just to see more people get involved like that.
Um, definitely, Liam. And we kind of shift our attention. We talked a little bit about the wide receivers, but now we could kind of, talk about them one by one. Now I'm just reading some things you said here in the notes, Liam, comparing Malachi Tony to Ryan Williams. I'll just talk about that a little bit and what you saw out of Malachi Tony against Bethune and even Notre Dame, where he really showed South Florida who's boss.
Yeah, so we talked about some of the backups and some of the guys who are seeing less minutes, but now I'd say it's time to focus on the two main guys, CJ Daniels and Malachi Tony, or who should we call Baby Jesus? Because he once again led the room in receptions and yards for the second week in a row. And I did liken him to Ryan Williams just speaking on his age. He is supposed to be a high school senior this year. And the fact that he's already taken the country by storm with his breakout game against Notre Dame, he is on that trajectory that we've seen from guys like Cooper Flagg, who also reclassed a year early. And I think that the ceiling is really, really high for a player of this caliber. Sure, there might be more talented guys at the moment in the country, like Jeremiah Smith or Cam Coleman, but Malachi Tony is just a different case because he's got an extra year on those guys. And so definitely a valuable asset for this team that Cristobal is going to be happy that they're going to be able to keep for a couple years before he, I think, inevitably will go to the NFL draft.
Yeah, I mean, he has a bright future ahead, and we hope he stays at Miami for a few years. You know, the transfer portal, it's a little messy, but Malachi Tony, stay home, help these Miami Hurricanes win for years to come. Now, moving towards CJ Daniels, I'm a person that didn't really know much about CJ Daniels coming into the season, but oh boy, he proved that he belongs in Miami and that he fits into Shannon Dawson's system. I mean, what, three touchdown receptions in the first two games? He looked lights out against Notre Dame and lights out against Bethune. Made those touchdown grabs look easy. He, he in coverage, he got a ball in the end zone over one of the Bethune defenders and has been looking absolutely stellar these first two games.
Yeah, and it's starting to become no question why Coach Cristobal was so high on him ever from the start before he even came over to Miami, because ever since his days at Liberty, back with quarterback Caden Salter, and they had that impressive season that saw them get all the way to the college football playoffs before getting routed by Oregon. He was a hot commodity on the Miami list. But then unfortunately, he decided to go to the SEC for a year with LSU. And then after a fruitless season where he did not see the end zone once, he has already seen the end zone three times here at Miami. And the Hurricanes made sure to scoop him up quickly in the transfer portal over last summer. And it's paying dividends for this program.
You know, what I like about, the quarterback room, the wide receiver room, and the running back room, they all have guys with different age and different experience. CJ Daniels can mentor a guy like Malachi Tony. Carson Beck could mentor a guy like Luke Nickel, and for the running backs, Mark Fletcher Jr. can mentor a Gerard Pringle and help him get going. Gerard Pringle did see snaps as well. And now one guy we didn't see was JoJo Trader. He was a little banged up, but it does look promising that he's gonna play against USF this Saturday at 4:30 p.m. Jordan Lyle was a little bit banged up as well, so I think, but he looks like he's gonna play, so we'll see him on Saturday as well.
Yeah, we just received some great news over the last 48 hours from Coach Cristobal himself, announcing that Jordan Lyle, JoJo Trader, and then Armando Blount as well will all be available for that Saturday tilt against South Florida. So great to see there. And like you said, it just speaks volumes to the versatility of this group where our two leading pass catchers, one of them is a sixth-year receiver, and the other one is a true freshman in the most truest sense, in the fact that he's should be pretty much a high schooler. So just crazy how we have such different ends of the spectrum and they're all coming together under one identity.
Yeah, and we saw moving to the running back room, we saw Mark Fletcher take, a majority of those snaps, 11 attempts with 86 yards. And then, Gerard Pringle, he came out big, making his Miami Hurricanes debut as a freshman, had a touchdown. And the running back room really dominated this game in terms of the trenches and scoring touchdowns. If you want to talk about that a little bit, Liam, because these guys were really explosive, especially in the trenches.
Yeah, the running back room may have been even more potent in this game than the wide receivers were. They accounted for four out of Miami's six scores. And Mark Fletcher finally seems to be winning back the favor of this Miami crowd after some people may have put him on their hit list for that dropped pass against Georgia Tech that may have led to that upset. He kind of has established himself now as the lead back, especially with Jordan Lyle out. He averaged 7.8 yards per carry on the ground on Saturday, had two touchdowns as well. Jamar Brown, who was really their third end running back, had another touchdown that he added from Notre Dame. So two touchdowns on the season for him. And then the standout player, I'd say one of my top three players from Bethune Cookman in terms of being the biggest beneficiaries was Gerard Pringle. He absolutely balled out in this game and capped it off with an electric 30-yard touchdown run. And he really flashed just some dynamic speed that we have not seen from other running backs in this room. He's more like a twitchy lightning as opposed to thunder type guy that can get downhill quickly, unlike the kind of bulldozer archetype we've seen from guys like Fletcher. So I think even though he probably won't see a significant role for the rest of this season because he's going to be behind guys like Marty Brown, Jordan Lyle, who's now healthy again, and of course Fletcher, he should be potent in Miami's offense for the following years.
And I think a lot of these guys in the running back room pose similar traits. I think they're all hard-nosed back. They can really run straight through the middle, as Shannon Dawson put it, and get to the end zone. But I think now is a great time to take our first break. But we'll be back in a little bit talking about more about the defense from the Bethune-Cookman game, and then we'll welcome a guest from USF student newspaper, The Oracle, and we'll have more of that in just a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We just talked a lot about the offense from the Bethune-Cookman game, but now it's time to talk about the defense. No, I mean Liam started off for us.
Yeah, so in total in this game, I have three players that really benefited the most. We already touched on one of them in Gerard Pringle, and the other two guys are one of them is in the trenches on the offensive line, so I want to get to him real quickly before we get to the defensive side. So one of them is Samson Okunlola, and the other one is Bryce Fitzgerald. But let's start with Okunlola, who also goes by the Pancake Honcho, which I feel like is one of the best nicknames I've heard in a while. And yeah, it was just completely offensive line dominance from the squad from start to finish. Even Carson Beck commented on it post game saying he had all the time in the world to make his throws. And questions were starting to be asked from the Miami's fan base for this five-star recruit because he had not been seeing many minutes, only played 16 games in total throughout the 2023 and 24 seasons. But against the Wildcats, he put on a clinic. He put up an 89.3 pass blocking grade on PFF, which was the highest rate on the team. And now because of that, he started to begin working himself into the rotation, splitting snaps now with starting left guard Matthew McCoy. So a big game from him, and now he looks like he will get some more minutes going forward.
Yeah, kind of shift into the defense here. I want to talk about Ruben Bain, phenomenal all season, played a big part in both wins, and he's account only sack and only forced fumble, and he's earned the top national PFF pass rush grade for his performance. And right now, if you kind of looked at the projected draft picks, there's a good chance Ruben Bain is a top five pick. But I also want to talk about Akeem Mesidor. He's not really been talked much because of Ruben Bain. Akeem Mesidor was, him and Bain converged on the sack on CJ Carr in the Notre Dame game. Anything you want to add about Akeem and Ruben?
Yeah, Akeem Messidor is also another one of the captains on this team, so he should definitely deserve a mention. He has been pivotal and an instrumental piece of this defensive line, and I don't think Ruben Bain would have the same success he's enjoying without the likes of Akeem Messidor playing well, snap in and snap out. Just every single time that the whistle is blown, he's there making a play, and it's really opening up things for Ruben Bain to shine. So for sure, Akeem Messidor should get his flowers.
Talk about the secondary a little bit. OJ Frederic and those guys. You've seen them improve. You've seen them play better on the outside, protecting the deep ball. Well, what have you seen from the secondary?
I think OJ Frederic has been great, and I think even better, it's been Keontae Scott, the Auburn transfer. He had the most amount of tackles for loss with three against Bethune-Cookman. He also initiated that bait interception against Notre Dame that earned SportsCenter top 10 honors, where he went sky high and basically went 180, where his head was facing the ground and his feet were up in the air and booted that ball up for Bain to eventually catch. So he's been making a big impact at a safety position coming in as a transfer for the squad where there's a lot of uncertainty in that whole secondary unit. And now, because of the stellar play from all the guys there, it's really become more of an unequivocal strength for this team instead of a loss that it was last season under Lance Guidry.
Definitely, Liam. And like we said, they got the job done against Bethune-Cookman like they should have. But when we come back, we will hear from Noah Vinsky, the managing editor of USF's campus newspaper, The Oracle. Welcome back, everyone. We are joined with Noah Vinsky, who's the managing editor and former sports editor of USF's campus newspaper, The Oracle. He's been covering the football program since Alex Golish's first season in 2023. Noah, excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, obviously it's a great start to the season for USF. And what do you think has been the big difference in this year's team compared to teams previously?
You know, Golish, Alex Golish has always preached the team being ready for the moment, and you've seen this. Obviously, the last two seasons, USF has played Alabama. Two very close games through three quarters. Two games that were very winnable through three quarters. That just, I mean, you have a overpowered by an SEC foe with a lot more depth. Um, I think this year this team is ready for the moment. It's year three of Golich. It's year three of a recruitment cycle. You got a senior quarterback who's coming off of a seasoning and ending injury last year. He's back healthy. This team just seems put together. It just seems like the culmination of kind of those two 7-win seasons under Golish, and it seems like they're really just putting it all together now.
Yeah, and Golish really seems to have been building year by year on his roster. We've seen it with the transfer portal pickups he's made for USF, adding Dre Butler and Josh Shellscar, two guys that can make a big difference on the defensive side. And also as well that you guys just got to have a bunch of veteran experience with six returning offensive starters and six returning guys on the D as well. What do you think in terms of positional groups is going to make the biggest difference for USF coming up against Miami?
Well, I think the defense as a whole has just been probably the most impressive part of this team. So the defense has been a sore spot the past couple of years, just in terms of points and yardage allowed. Um, and so far this season, I mean, 93rd in total defense, but only 11 and a half points per game allowed against, I mean, two ranked opponents. And if there's one thing this defense is really really good at is forcing turnovers. You saw those three forced turnovers against Boise State, an interception against DJ Lagway that maybe should have been called back with further replay, but we'll call it an interception. I think that really the heart and soul of this defense and Mac Harris have been absolutely just very impressive. Jalen Schuler, I mean, had 14 tackles against Boise, nine against Florida. He's kind of the heartbeat of this defense. This is he's a sixth-year senior. He just got granted another year of eligibility. So he's really been around for all of those, even those tough, 1, 2 win seasons. He's really just been kind of the leader of this defense under Golish, and you're really seeing him kind of blossom. And Mac Harris as well has just been an absolute wrecking ball for USF, and it's really translating to this whole defense.
I mean, your guys' defense, USF's defense looked really good against Florida, stopping DJ Lagway, especially the plays in the backfield where they able to get the running back or Lagway try to make a few dump off passes, really be able to stop Florida's offense. And I kind of want to turn to the offense. I mean, Byron Brown, he's been talked for a few years. Have you seen him improve throughout these years? Because, I mean, he can really play power four football. He is a great quarterback playing in the American Conference.
Yeah, I definitely didn't expect Byron Brown to outplay DJ Lagway. I think right now, 2 weeks into the season, you got to put Byron Brown into like a dark horse Heisman candidate, especially in the G6 right now. I think his evolution as a passer has been really impressive to see. Obviously, 2023 was a great year, set the single season records for passing yards, passing touchdowns, rushing yards for a quarterback. Really a phenomenal season. And obviously, last year, getting cut short, suffering a broken leg against Tulane, missing the rest of the season essentially. Um, Now Byram, he's bulked up. He's up to 235, and you see it. He's running like Cam Newton out there. Um, I think his running ability is just absolutely impressive. His ability to escape out of the pocket, and also I think Byram's Achilles heel. I think has always been his play in the pocket and just sitting back and going through his progressions. And I think he's really improving as a pocket passer. He's really connected with Keyshawn Singleton, who stepped up as wide receiver one after Sean Atkins' graduation, and he's been hooking up with Chaz Nimrod, a Tennessee transfer. I think his Byram's evolution is not just like a guy who can scramble out of the pocket and do things with his legs, but really just beat you up with his arm as well. Has been super impressive, and I think he's really, I mean, on pace for another record-breaking season.
Yeah, it really does seem like that. And as an observer from the University of Miami, I really do think that Byron Brown could give this squad a headache, especially for Miami's defensive line. We saw what CJ Carr was able to do on the QB draw against Miami. He gained a lot of yardage going up the middle, and that's definitely one of Byron Brown's strengths. What do you think is the key for Byron Brown to unlocking this Miami defense? Is it his ability in the pack pocket, or is it his scramble ability getting outside and evading pressure?
I think Byram's ability to extend plays with his legs is ultimately one of the keys to victory here. I mean, you've seen it time and time again against Boise and Florida, just his ability to keep plays alive and pick up first downs with his legs. So I think really his ability to get outside the pocket and start to move the football would be key to victory.
Most of USF's points have come on a field goal or a rushing touchdown. What do you see that maybe Brown and the passing side of things need to improve so that he can get to the ball into the end zone via the air?
Well, I think the running game outside of Brown has been questionable for 3 games. I know there's been a lot of turnover at the running back group. Three departing running backs last year. Having Cartevious Norton, who's a transfer from Charlotte, Sam Franklin, a transfer from Oklahoma, really haven't gotten going on the ground. I would like to see some of those running backs start to get going. Alvin Isaac, he had a pretty successful game in the screen game, and some of those outside runs against Florida. His speed was really able to beat that Florida defense. But yeah, I think really with the offense, what I'd like to see is this ground game outside of Byram, kind of restore that three-headed monster that you've seen with that mobile quarterback in past years.
Yeah, and I think that if the ground game does get going for South Florida, it will open up a lot of things as well for the wideouts, specifically Keyshawn Singleton, who goes by Baby Calvin Johnson. How key do you think he will be against this Miami secondary? Because he's already had 2 touchdowns on the season and some pretty impressive stat lines.
Yeah, I got to say that that fake punt touchdown. I know everyone talks about the genius move to sneaking out a third string quarterback as a punter, but Keyshawn Singleton made a great catch on that play. Shrugged off 2 defenders to the end zone. Was an incredibly impressive catch. His ability to go up there and get the ball was something that really USF's been lacking. Sean Atkins was a phenomenal receiver the past 2 seasons, record-breaking first 1,000-yard receiver in program history. But he was a small receiver. He was a slot guy. He was a little doink pass here and there. He really wasn't a go ball, vertical down the field receiver, which is Keyshawn Singleton. And now that he's really blossomed into that wide receiver one role, I think it really transforms the passing game. It really transforms the ability for USF to hit you with these big chunk plays in the passing game. So I think Keyshawn Singleton, I think plays a huge role in this offense.
I'm sure you're watching the game against Florida. It's getting down to the wire in the third and fourth quarter. Were you stressed at all? What was going through your mind down the stretch of that game?
I gotta say, I'm a huge Philadelphia Eagles fan. I've witnessed two Super Bowl wins, and I gotta put that in the top five of like most. It was one of the most stressful games I've ever seen. Yeah, being in the press box at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, I think I mean, just hearing the life get sucked out of the fans after Grammatica nails that field goal was, one of the most craziest things I think, just from going from absolutely just like craziness and chaos in the crowd to just like dead silence. Um, that was, I mean, that was up there. I mean, if you would have told me that USF would start 2-0, ranked 18th in the AP poll, I mean, that wouldn't have been a situation or a scenario that I would have drew up, you know, any situation. Like, it's just so, I'm honestly shocked that this team has, had so much success in two games, and that Florida game was, I mean, absolutely the most, the signature win for Alex Golish and Byron Brown. And this might be, I don't want to look too far into the future, but if any Power Four programs come calling, I mean, this will be the game they're looking at. For Golish, I don't want to, speculate too much, but I mean, you got to think that that's something that we're gonna see soon.
And I kind of just want to add on to that a little bit. What do you think the ceiling is for this USF team?
And the one thing that we've been missing as a program for, I mean, all these years is an American Conference title, and I really think that now USF is by far the favorite to win the title in the American, and also, I mean, I think you got to think playoff hopes, right? I think that USF is I haven't checked the latest probabilities, but USF has to be one of the top teams to be considered for a college football playoff spot, especially after, beating Boise State and then going ahead and grabbing a huge SEC upset that the committee will definitely be looking at, a couple months from now. I think right now it's like you can't lose any don't lose any stupid American Conference games. You got to I don't want to say run the table in the conference, but yeah, I mean, I think you got to keep the foot in the gas when it comes to conference play. I mean, I realistically can see this team finishing 10-2 and with an AAC title and going to the college football playoffs.
Yeah, I think this Miami game, depending on if they win or lose, could give USF a lot of latitude in the conference play. Because if they win it, then yeah, they can afford to drop a game or so and still win the AAC or American Conference title. And if they drop it, I mean, they still do have a realistic playoff hopes if they can go ahead and, like you said, run the table again in the American. And I think that for Golish, what really sets this team apart for him in year three is just the intangibles. We've talked about the talent that this team has had, but the way in which they've won, it's been completely disciplined. I mean, compared to what we saw from Napier's team, where they had 11 penalties, gave up 103 yards uh, total in flags. It just all amounted and it all compiled into mistakes and it led to South Florida points on the other end. So going into this game against Miami, how vital is it that this team stays organized and stays disciplined for them to come out with the upset W?
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that USF played last season. Obviously, Cam Ward being the quarterback then, but still is a team that handedly won against USF in Raymond James Stadium. So you have a bit of experience there. And yeah, I mean, with Miami, it doesn't look there's a huge drop off this year. There's a lot of question marks going from Cam Ward to Carson Beck, who, I mean, didn't have the greatest season at Georgia, still a winner, still an SEC starting quarterback. Yeah, he's looked the part in Miami. I'd say that win against Notre Dame a couple weeks ago was maybe one of the most impressive from week one. 472 yards and four touchdowns through two games. Obviously, dispatched Bethune-Cookman in a gimme last week, but yeah, no, I think you're really, I mean, going from DJ Lagway to Carson back, you're really running the gauntlet with quarterbacks here. I think if the defense really, continues with the streak they're on, forcing turnovers, getting to the quarterback, placing pressure into the backfield, and I think most impressively, I went through the drives that from Florida on the past game. Um, You mean Florida drove into USF territory 6 times. They were inside the 25 3 times, but USF only gave up 1 touchdown the entire game. There was 3 field goals out of it. So I think if the defense just like kind of locks in, in the red zone and around that red area, I think that, I think this will be a pretty close game here.
Interesting situation with our respective home stadiums, both off campus. What do you think the key is to getting fans to Raymond James? And on campus, is there, a bit of a different vibe about this team than there has been in previous years?
Yeah, I think knowing that I mean, I see it when I drive by campus is I see the shell of the stadium, the on-campus stadium coming together, which I mean that'll be completed by the time I'm graduated. But I mean, still, it's cool as a both a fan morale standpoint and a recruitment standpoint. It's definitely going to make a big difference here. Uh, I think in terms of vibe, yeah, I think that. I think the past 2 seasons were good starting points. I mean, 7 wins. Obviously, getting this team to two bowl games after what, like 4 wins in 3 years was. I mean, the 2 bowl games were great, and especially 2 bowl wins. But I think this year this team just seems hungrier, and I think it's like we're not settling for a 7 win team anymore. And they just looks like a different team when you step onto the field. Offense, defense, coaching in terms of play calling and intensity. I'm just noticing a big difference. I mean, it's honestly it's pretty surprising as a somebody who's been watching this team for the past few years. It's something that I certainly didn't expect or draw up, but yeah, I mean, there's certainly I'd say definitely is a more hungry vibe to this team than in recent years.
I think it's for that reason that this is somewhat of a scary matchup for the Hurricanes because you never want to play a team with such renewed confidence after 2 top 25 wins, going into your stomping grounds, looking hungry, ready to chew that bone and pull off another W. And I think that's why all the media aggregators, all the fans from both bases are agreeing that the overriding belief is that this game is going to be way closer than it was last season. So with that being said, how close do you think this game will be? Can we get a final score prediction from you or on the outcome of this game?
Oh, final score prediction. That's always tough. I think it'll be a 1 score game. I really do. I'm incredibly impressed by this defense. I am been incredibly impressed by Byron Brown. Um, I think knowing this, how well this team fared in such a hostile SEC environment, I feel a lot better on the road. I mean, going to Hard Rock Stadium. Um, Man, I hate to give a score prediction, but I know I do feel like this will be a 1 score game. I do feel like this will be a a game that late in the fourth quarter will be decided. I feel like this is one of those games that'll be decided by which team makes a mistake, which team turns the ball over in a bad scenario. So, I mean, whichever team can be most advantageous in those situations, I think will come on top.
Well, we want to thank you for your time, Noah. But before you go, anything you want to plug about the Oracle before you go?
Yeah, we're all digital. We head to our website, www.usforacle.com. We're covering all sports on campus and off campus at Raymond James Stadium as well. But yeah, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of
Thank you,
course, man.
Noah. It was a pleasure, and you gave some great insight into the game this weekend.
Thank you. See you guys
Make
in
sure to catch
Miami.
on the CW. Yeah, see you in Miami.
See you. Well, Liam, that was a great conversation of from Noah Vinsky from USF's campus paper, The Oracle. And Liam, what stood out to you from what Noah had to say?
I think that his recognition of how potent of a running back that Byron Brown can be on the ground and his ability to scramble out of the pocket, I think is going to be Miami's biggest concern. He has 2 touchdowns on the season, which is more than South Florida's current running back tandem combined between Alvin Isaac and Cartavius Thornton with one total on the season. And so if we can limit him and force him to make those plays in the pocket with pressure collapsing around him, I believe that's how we're going to find the most success coming out of this game victorious.
Uh, Definitely. I think we talked a lot about Byron Brown. He's gonna be the sole factor, and I think it's gonna come down to Miami's defense, how well they can stop the run and stop Byron Brown from escaping the pocket, keep him in the pocket, and making him throw the ball down the field, which is something statistically hasn't been as good than him running the football.
Especially, yes, I agree. And then also there another factor to consider is that Wesley Bissainthe, one of our lead linebackers that is the captain of this team, is going to be out for about the first half of this game after leaving the field against Bethune Cookman on the third play of the game with a targeting penalty. And so he could have been used as a potential spy against Byron Brown. So that duty will now be probably delegated to either Mo Toure or Raul Aguirre. And so, while those players I believe are equally as apt because of how much depth that Miami has, it still will be a significant factor, at least in that opening half.
Yeah, and we continue to talk about the run game, big emphasis on that. Cartavius Norton and Alvin Isaac. I think Isaac is going to be the bigger problem for what I saw. He had a uh, Byron Brown threw him a dump off pass that he, evaded a few tackles, went 36 yards late in the game to help USF win. He's going to be, I think, a key factor here.
Yeah, and then also looking at the special teams for South Florida, I believe that's another edge that they hold over Miami. They have Nico Gramatica, who, while he took center stage last week against Florida, he was really a stud as a freshman, which is something that not a lot of people know. He had makes from 58, 52, and 51 yards, and that's in his first year of his collegiate career. He's actually the son of the former NFL Pro Bowl kicker Martin Gramatica, so it just shows that he has athletic DNA for those kicker genes, which is something that I'd never heard of before. I've heard of football families where it's been, cornerback passed down or a quarterback like the Manning family, but I've never heard of father and son kickers. So that's definitely a first.
You mentioned it. I mean, the kicking from our side, Carter Davis. I mean, we have a brand new, kind of special teams, kicking room. But Carter Davis has been solid, especially against Notre Dame, where he played, where he had a few really big kicks. There, I think this game could really come down to a field goal. If you look at it, time will tell. Don't want to, put my word on that, but late game situation, I think, the kicker is going to come in big.
Yeah, let's hope it doesn't come down to that. And let's also hope that Carter Davis has turned the page from last year. It already looked like he has with that big performance against Notre Dame. But let's keep in mind that in the seasons prior to the 2025 campaign, his total was 4 for 11. And then in 2024, he went 2 for 7 on field goals. So let's hope that he has turned a new leaf and that under this new special teams coaching staff at Miami, he's learned a thing or two and can continue making them from deep.
And I think, turnovers is a big thing. South Florida didn't commit any turnovers compared to Florida, who made one, and that was a big mistake in the game. How important is it to have turnover free football from both sides of the ball?
Oh yeah, it's going to be vital, and that's something that Miami has definitely cleaned up over these past two games. They've also had zero turnovers, and so if they can stay free in that category, I believe that they will have some resounding success. And speaking more on that Florida USF game, we just talked with Noah and he was saying how dominant South Florida was, and I agree. But there could also be the converse argument where Florida kind of shot themselves in the foot, and they were the ones that lost the game for themselves. Basically, all because of Billy Napier and his lack of discipline on his team. I mean, we saw it towards the end of the game where their defensive lineman Brendan Bett was ejected on the final drive for an unsportsmanlike conduct call after spitting on a USF player, literally like the day after or a couple of days after Jalen Carter did that against Dak Prescott, and that whole controversy unfolded. So, but also give credit to where credit is due with Alex Golish and his team to stay disciplined and to keep these guys with level heads when they're facing adversity.
Yeah, I mean Alex Golesh, he a spectacular coach. Noah said that maybe Coach Golish could be coaching power for football if he keeps this up. Great coach, and got a chance to watch his press conference after the Florida game. The way he talks about his team, he's very emotional. He talks slow. You could tell he cares about his squad.
Oh yes, absolutely, he does. He gets very emotional. And I've already seen some discourse among University of Florida fans saying that he could be next in line for Billy Napier's job because it seems like they're all out for his head at the moment. Um, so it may look like Golesh might not have many years left with this program because of how well he is doing.
And just talk about Florida a little bit, who will play after USF, and that's where the rankings and this could be top 25 rankings could be really mixed up come next week, but we'll wait for that for our next show. Yeah, Florida's kind of been a mess the past few years. I don't think they've shown anything great. I mean, yes, they beat LIU in week one, but you're facing Long Island University. You're supposed to dominate in that game. Who LIU actually did beat Eastern Michigan, which was a big win for them. But Liam, anything you want to say regarding USF and what to look out for this game?
Just hopefully that the pressure is on Miami, and so let's hope that they can deliver. It's going to be critical that we can hopefully win by more than one score because that's what the committee is going to be looking for. They're hoping that, or they're going to be looking to see if we can win this game handily, and that will keep us in that top five area for the rankings because we know that there's going to be some other teams who are vying for that spot. They're going to be playing some lesser competition this week. So if we want to keep impressing this AP press, we need to show out. And so it's going to be vital that we can perform and go all out in this game.
And this is really good. This is could be a trap game for the Hurricanes. We nobody expected USF to be ranked, but now that they are, and this is going to be one of the best matchups of the week, in my opinion, and it's going to set the course for both teams come further down the year in terms of standings and college football playoff talks.
And possibly the most exciting game that the CW has ever hosted on their channel.
Yeah, yeah. That game will be on the CW, but I think from us, that was a great episode, Liam. Anything else you want to say? Should we wrap it up here?
I think yeah, this is a great place to wrap it up. Let's go Canes and let's hope that we can pull out a win on Saturday and keep this momentum rolling.
All right, go Canes, and we want to thank Noah Vinsky from USF's campus newspaper, The Oracle. He's the managing editor and the former sports editor down there. For myself, I'm Zach Cohen. My other host, Liam Hickey. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back next week previewing Miami versus Florida. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the game against USF this Saturday.